So my name is Nick Shoemaker, longtime listener, first-time presenter. Thanks for having me. We're going to talk today, I guess, a little about myself. CWNE 318, we like 18, you'll see. Wireless practice lead for zero-day technology solutions, and we're going to talk about why predictive designs are important. My side job is I front for Queen. You can find me at wirelessnick.com and nshoe18 on Twitter. So everybody watches the news. We all hear. It's very polarizing in the world today, right? You know, Han shot first, right? Polarized about that. Kirk or Picard, there's still lots of polarization. Is it less filling or does it actually taste great? That's been going on for how many years and we still don't have an answer. And then what we're here to talk about, do predictive designs actually matter in networks today? So, get this open. So our wireless design process, right? We start with getting some floor plans from our customer, what their facility looks like. Then we get all our colored pencils, right? Everybody know? Something to draw circles with, you know, empty cup works perfectly. And each of these are going to be a channel, right? We're good? So now we're going to take this and we're going to draw our nice little coverage patterns. Everybody's happy. Then we're going to send that to the customer and say, okay, go install this. Oop, we don't need that. We're going to do a post-installation survey and then we're going to bask in the glory of a great deployment. Everybody does that, right? Yay? Yeah? Okay, that was it. Oh wait, that was 15 years ago. Been doing this way too long. Everybody remember the old days of, I've got the Cisco site survey utility with a PCMCIA card, and we're literally drawing the coverage patterns as we walk. Luckily, we don't have to do that anymore. So let's start with, why do we do predictive designs? Obviously, new construction. How can I go on site and do a site survey if the building doesn't exist? How can I give somebody a design if it's not there? Who all does AP on a stick surveys? All right. Who does a predictive before you do an AP on a stick survey? All right. So why do we do that? Do we show up on site with a blank design and just start placing stuff? We want to see what's going on, right? So we obviously want to see where it is. We can hand that then to our survey teams, et cetera. We get some gap analysis. So we do a passive survey after our installation, right? And then we've got our predictive, and we can say, okay, this is what I thought it was going to be. This is what it actually is. Now, how do I fix it? So we've got that gap analysis. I can remediate. I can either change AP locations, if I need to add, if I need to change RRM configurations, et cetera. Keith's going to yell at me for this one, but we can actually do some capacity testing predictively. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better than nothing. So we get a little bit of capacity planning, especially, 90% of the designs that we're doing today, or at least that in my company we're doing, there's no more cables to the desks, right? No cable to the desk, no phones. Everything's Skype on the desktop, cell phones, et cetera. So we've got to look at that and figure out, are we going to have the airspace, the bandwidth, et cetera, to support all these clients? And then what happens if your facility changes? What if we add walls? What if we remove walls? What if we're in a warehouse and we're re-racking the whole warehouse? How do I figure that out? And most important that we see a lot, worker changes. Workers are constantly moving facilities, moving places, right? They're constantly changing floors, et cetera. Hoteling. How many customers do we go to that are using open seating, sit wherever you want? Well, that's all wireless, right? There's no cables. So what's actually in a predictive design? So I've seen some discussions recently on social media about, we're guessing about walls. Well, yeah, we don't really know what they are, do we? But you've been doing it long enough, you can come up with some ideas, right? So I know that a standard drywall is about 3 to 5 dB, and depending on if it's California because of the earthquake requirements, or New York, or Florida, I can kind of figure that out and build a little database, right? So we get that going. And then any kind of structures, poles, holes in floors, et cetera. Then I can create templates, and I know there's lots of people in this room that have used Ekahau, and you can actually create a base config for your controller out of that predictive survey. So you have somewhere to start. Because guess what? When I'm doing a predictive, what am I doing? I'm setting a channel plan if I need. I'm setting power levels for the APs. Well, there's my base config. I'm not trying to build that from scratch. I have that, and then I have something to test against to say, yes, that's what I expected it to be, or no, it's not. Again, some capacity planning, kind of. Sorry, Keith, I had to bring it up again, but we can at least see, right? We see something. Is my network possibly going to be healthy? Is it not going to be healthy? Where we stand? Real-world attenuation. So we've done the predictive design. Is that the end-all, be-all? No. So what's our next step? We go on site, right? We use, I left it over there so people wouldn't message me like Sam. But we use like a sidekick and a phone, and we do what? Attenuation readings. We go and check those locations, and we say, okay, these are what we think the walls are. These are what the walls really are. Now I can change that design and update it and be way more accurate than if I just show up and throw in an install. I kind of put this in here twice, I apologize, but kind of a base to start with, right? So I've got AP layouts. I've got a base controller design that I can start using. So I've got somewhere to start. I'm not just going for nowhere, or starting from nothing. Antenna patterns. How many times have we wondered, okay, what if I use this type of antenna instead of this one? Well, how can I, am I gonna fly to every location and test that? Am I gonna send somebody to site every time? Or am I gonna throw those into an Ekahau or an IB wave and just see what that pattern looks like? I mean, a really easy way to test those in that environment, especially, see if I can make this work, especially if I've got already my real world attenuation. I know what the attenuation is, so guess what? Now when I put stuff in, it's going to probably be, 90% accurate? There's always gonna be differences, but we're almost perfect at that point. And my favorite, garbage in, garbage out. So if I put crap into my design, I'm gonna get crap when I do the install, right? How many of us do remediations in here? How much is fixing somebody just threw a bunch of APs up and said, hey, I'm great? We make a lot of money at it, don't we? But if I start the right way and I put all of this in there to begin with, I'm not getting garbage in. I'm getting something that's actually very useful and repeatable and something that I can use moving forward. And then my favorite, so I did a blog post about this, but anybody know what the perfect wireless design is? Does it meet the customer requirements? That's the perfect design. So how close did we get to meeting those requirements? Did we hit it? And this goes back to the gap analysis. What do I have to do to get to that point? I've done the testing. I've done capacity planning on site. I've done throughput testing. What do I have to do to tune that network to get it to meet those requirements? So we saw how we did wireless designs in the past. I think a lot of us have done that for a long time. And now some things aren't too different, but now we're using all digital, right? So we're getting our diagrams from the customer. We're gonna import those into either Ekahau or IB Wave, et cetera. Then we're gonna place all our walls and obstacles, all the fun stuff, lay out our APs and look at better circles than what we drew with our cup and pencils, although I still like that. Then we can actually export that and hand it to our installation teams, right? In all kinds of different formats with notes and pictures and all kinds of stuff that we didn't have before. Perform a validation survey and look at the gap analysis again. I mean, okay, when we're doing the survey, right, we're using this. Ideally, this device is a perfect RF device, right? Well, what we're looking at is how does this device work? How do your phones work? What's our least capable device, right? Especially healthcare. I've got iPhones, I've got Vocera badges, pumps, all of that. And those are things that we can put in, and I know, Jake, we've talked a lot about this, and you've done a lot of blog posts about it, but we can use tools like Ekahau and things to do those offsets and know, okay, I know that an iPhone is 8 dB different than this. Okay, great. I can at least figure out what's my client possibly going to see in the environment. And that's the key to the predictive, is getting there and then doing that gap analysis after you're doing your validation survey. Then we get to sit back and bask in the glory of our deployment. And then we get to use this cup for what it's really meant for and celebrate our design. There you go. Oh. Then you get to take a nap after we celebrate. That's for you. And so finally, and I know I'm standing between you and lunch, so I'm kind of getting through this for you, but the days of just good enough wireless, who always heard, I just need good enough wireless, right? How many years have we heard? It's not important, just give me something. Those days are over. We're now that wireless is our first and sometimes only form of medium, right? So it has to be very, very robust and done properly. The application requirements. Obviously, as we add more applications onto the network, we're adding more and more wireless devices. How do I know how that's going to react before I do an install? How do I know where I start with my configuration, other than, a lot of us have been doing this for far too long, but we have ideas, but if I have that predictive ahead of time, if I have that empirical data to say, here it is, I at least have somewhere to start. I can go back and say, okay, I really screwed up. I don't know what I'm doing, which is most of the time, and then we start again. But I'm not going on site. I'm not having to, waste time and money on that. It helps us do it right from the beginning. Again, we already saw a show of hands of how many people go out and do remediations. Well, if we do it right from the beginning, how many remediations are we actually going to have at that point? So let's do it right. Let's get it right from the beginning, and it causes us, it's caused me a lot of this, unfortunately. But, our customers are happier, and, your reputation kind of rides on it most of the time. And then just having some knowledge of what you're walking into. If I just have a blank diagram and I go walking onto a customer site, how do I know what I'm walking into? What do if I've never put any kind of modeling around it, I have no idea what I'm going to expect to see. At least if I have some kind of modeling, I can say, okay, I believe this is what's going to happen. Here's what, I can make adjustments and what have you on site. And that's actually it.